I got it. It's the 16th. Rich, Fernando, Jennifer, Councilwoman, let's go. Come on.
I might get emotional here.
Good morning, everyone. And I thank you all for being here. I'm sorry to hold you up. And actually, I'm not supposed to be at the podium right now because my notes tell me that Jennifer Rodriguez is at the podium. It's just kind of a natural thing, so I'm going to move away.
Well, when the mayor stands in front of the podium, you stand behind him, right? Well, good morning. Buenos días a todos. This really is a great day. Good morning to Mayor Nutter, to council member representatives here today, Consul Giralt, and distinguished guests. Time goes by very, very quickly. It was only last March in 2013 when we all gathered here together when Mayor Michael Nutter established the Office of Immigrant and Multicultural Affairs. On that day, he asked Fernando Treviño, the Deputy Director, and myself, that he tasked us with ensuring the well-being of immigrant groups and promoting a welcoming environment for all people, regardless of their place of origin, their citizenship status, or the language they speak. So in the space of a year, our office has taken significant strides in many areas. We have assisted city departments and agencies in providing language access services. We have created a naturalization task force to promote citizenship. We have helped build the capacity of the Bhutanese refugee community and established the first Multicultural Week celebration. And today, we gather here to mark another significant accomplishment in our collective efforts to make Philadelphia a welcoming place for all. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you Mayor Michael Nutter, who will introduce policy changes at the city level.
Thank you. So, good morning, everyone. And thank you all for being here. And again, sorry for the delay. There are a couple things going on in the city today, but none bigger, I would suggest, than what I'm going to have the wonderful opportunity to do in a few minutes. I want to thank Jennifer, certainly for the introduction, but more importantly, for her answering the call to service some time ago. Jennifer was really just kind of minding her business, doing what she was doing over at APM, serving well on the Redevelopment Authority board, and I asked her if she would take on a different challenge, a new way of serving in our city government. She said yes, and then I had the opportunity through a series of relationships and partnerships over time, but also through a lot of conversations with our city representative and Director of Communications, Desiree Peterkin-Bell, who's here, and we were able to also ask Fernando Treviño to come. This duo, this combination, these two leaders have helped tremendously to bring us to this particular moment. And so with that in mind, I want to ask that you might, in a warm Philadelphia way, recognize both Jennifer and Fernando. I think for those of you who have been to events like this, you'll be pretty familiar with what's about to happen. You know that any big thing, any important thing, doesn't just happen. It comes together because a lot of different people put a lot of time and effort into making something good or important take place. That's certainly the case today. So I have a number of folks that I need to recognize. A couple of them you'll hear from. We have a number of elected and high appointed officials with us this morning. And first and foremost, I want to recognize a true champion of not only the district that she represents, but the broader community. And that, of course, is Councilwoman for the 7th Councilmanic District, Councilwoman Maria Quinones Sanchez. I want to thank her. Two other members who are with us this morning, and they are, of course, champions in their own right, and members take on any number of different issues that they have a personal passion about, or things going on in their districts, or even across the city. And of course, no greater champion of the people at all levels for any number of different causes than the 3rd District Councilwoman, Councilwoman Janie Blackwell. And thank her for being here. Thank you. And I certainly want to thank and recognize and appreciate his perspective and views on any number of issues. And that is Councilman at Large, Councilman Denny O'Brien. We're honored here this morning, and I've certainly gotten to meet and gotten to know a lot of folks in my 20 years of elective office, 30 years of public life. But I've been able to make a very good and relatively new friend in our Consul General representing Mexico here in Philadelphia. We were together just the other day when the ambassador for Mexico was in Philadelphia. We had a couple different occasions to spend some time together, and I was very straightforward with the ambassador, and we had a really great time. He's a great man and very focused on many issues here in Philadelphia. And I talked to him about some of the things going on here. But one of the things that I particularly highlighted to him was that we have a great Consul General from Mexico. We want to keep him. You know how this goes. They move folks around and rotate people in and out, and I understand that. But we're asking for a special dispensation when it comes to Consul General Carlos Giralt. Internally, a lot of folks have, again, worked on this very important issue. Our Chief of Staff and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Everett Gillison, has provided incredible leadership on this particular issue. And coming from a variety of perspectives, as a former public defender, I would suggest once a public defender, always a public defender, and he has been a great defender of the people of this city. Brings that perspective with him each and every day, but also the humankind aspect to all of his work. And for that, I want to thank our Chief of Staff and Deputy Mayor for Public Safety, Everett Gillison. Our Deputy Mayor for Administration and Coordination, again, on this particular issue and many others, providing perspective and certainly life experience, and that, of course, is Deputy Mayor Rich Negrin. I mentioned her earlier in the context of Fernando, but deserving of her own recognition, and again, bringing life experience. It is very, very important in public service especially, that no matter what your title, no matter where you've come from, no matter what heights you have achieved based on others' perspective, that you never lose sight of where you've come from. And I don't know anyone that maintains that level of focus better than our city representative and the Director of Communications for the City of Philadelphia. And in this particular regard, again, provided keen insight on many of the issues, both local regional, and national. We are talking about some national issues here. And that, of course, is our city representative, Desiree Peterkin-Bell. Desiree? A couple other folks in government who, again, bring their own perspective. We have two of our civil service commissioners here with us, Chair, of course, Dara Smith, and Member Pedro Rodriguez. Thank you both for being here today. But we didn't do this by ourselves. Because what we're talking about is real people and real lives that are affected, and real leaders and groups and organizations. This is Philadelphia. People's voices will be heard. There will be pro, there will be con. That's how this great country started, just a few blocks down the street. I doubt that there was complete and total agreement on that day, on July 4th, 1776. But a document was produced, and a nation was born. And we've been making changes and making changes and making changes and trying to make sure it works. And then we created our own Constitution, and other nations around the world did the same. And the Constitution's been amended a few times. And so we're still working for that perfect union. But to the groups and organizations out there, I want to publicly thank you, express our appreciation for your engagement, for your involvement, for sharing your views, for the debate, for the discussion. And whether or not we agreed on each and every point, I think we found enough areas of agreement to get us here today while we continue in the greatest nation in the world to still try to make for that more perfect union. And for that, I want to say to Juntos, the African Cultural Alliance of North America, the One Love Movement, Pennsylvania Immigration and Citizenship Coalition, the Nationality Service Center, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society of Pennsylvania, the Victims and Witnesses Services of South Philly, the New Sanctuary Movement, the Archdiocese of Philadelphia, the Hispanic Clergy, AFRICOM, the Human Relations Commission, I know Rue Landau is here, and some of the commissioners may be here as well, and the Philadelphia Family Unity Network. Thank you for caring so much to be actively engaged and involved in the process of government and governance. This is the United States of America. We have rigorous debates, but ultimately we have to come together to make this great country work. And so please recognize all these groups. So I've received a perfect translation from behind me. Yes, we can, and yes, we did. And so with that, I am very proud to be here today with city leaders and community advocates to sign a new executive order regarding the City of Philadelphia's policy on the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement detainers, also known as ICE. Philadelphia is, in fact, a global, welcoming city. We welcome immigrants from all over the world to live, work, visit, and raise their families right here in the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. Despite issues that may exist at the federal levels of government regarding immigration or deportation, the City of Philadelphia can in fact ensure that individuals who pose no threat to our public safety are not detained on behalf of ICE and its Secure Communities program. Initially, the purpose of local municipality ICE detainers and the Secure Communities program was to enhance the federal government's ability to apprehend dangerous criminals who enter the United States of America illegally. But in practice, and for some, the reality on our streets, many of those being detained or deported have no criminal background or have only committed misdemeanors or minor crimes. As a result, families have been permanently separated. Sometimes the main breadwinner in a household is lost. Children are sent to a country that is foreign to them because they have spent the majority of their lives in the United States of America. And so as a result of an overly aggressive use of these detainers, there has been a negative impact on some immigrants who will not report crimes to the police or don't want to be witnesses, and unfortunately then suffer accordingly in silence. I have, and my administration has, always placed limitations from the start on the city's agreement with ICE because of this reality. In July of 2010, we announced that the renewed agreement would not provide federal immigration and customs enforcement with access to information about victims or witnesses. It was our decision. The Philadelphia Police Department also operates under a directive that precludes our police officers from inquiring about an individual's immigration status. That was our decision. Today's executive order takes our decision-making and our position even further. ICE enforcement actions, of course, have become a local, state, and national public issue and a public safety issue. The Philadelphia Police Department relies on information gathered from residents to solve crimes each and every day. We do that in order to protect the safety of our communities. And without a significant level of trust and faith, citizens or others who are here just won't talk to law enforcement authorities or the police department. Now, or very soon, in about a minute, every Philadelphian or person in Philadelphia, I'm going to say that again, every Philadelphian or person in Philadelphia has the right to feel safe, secure, and protected. And I believe that our new policy established by the executive order I will sign shortly will promote safety because residents and others who are here will not need to fear that interacting with their government will result in a detainer for themselves or their loved ones. I also want to be clear about what this executive order does not do. Does not do. If you have committed a crime in this city, you will be prosecuted. And if you are found guilty, you will be punished. Whether you and your family came here on the Mayflower, on a slave ship, or you just arrived last week. If you commit a crime in Philadelphia, you will be arrested, you will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and we will deal with you. This executive order does not protect criminals from the criminal justice system. It simply protects innocent individuals from, in effect, being punished for doing the right thing and cooperating with us to find and arrest real criminals. Once again, I want to deeply express my appreciation and thanks for all the advocacy, the community groups that are represented here today, because you've worked with us. You've stuck in there with us. It wasn't always peaches and cream, I get that. But you hung in there in the process, and you helped us to craft this new policy. So with that, I'm going to go over to the table for a second and sign the executive order, and then we have a couple other folks that you're going to hear from in a few minutes. This is a mayoral executive order. It's a policy regarding U.S. immigration and customs. I'm sorry. I think they're talking to you. Can you just kind of move over a little bit? Thanks. Sorry. This is a mayoral executive order. It's a policy regarding U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency detainer requests. Now, therefore, I, Michael A. Nutter, Mayor of the City of Philadelphia, by the powers vested in me by the Philadelphia Home Rule Charter, do hereby order as follows. Section 1. No person in the custody of the city who otherwise would be released from custody shall be detained pursuant to an ICE civil immigration detainer request pursuant to 8 CFR 287.7, nor shall notice of his or her pending release be provided unless such person is being released after conviction for a first or second degree felony involving violence and the detainer is supported by a judicial warrant. Section number 2. The police commissioner, the superintendent of prisons, and all other relevant officials of the city are hereby required to take appropriate action to implement this order. It is hereby ordered. And so with that, I'm going to ask that Councilwoman Maria Quinones-Sanchez would give us a few remarks. Councilwoman?
I'm a little emotional. I'm emotional for every single advocate who has stood up, every single religious leader, every single person who was part of this historic coalition like we've never seen before, from every part of Africa, from every part of the Caribbean, from all the Jewish community, the Arab American community, all of you, thank you for taking us to task and making sure that we get this done right. So congratulations to all of you. But I want to take a moment because I think it's real important that we really, truly show our mayor our appreciation for what has happened today. As he completes his second term, for us in the Latino community and in the immigrant community, this is one of the most important things he's done in his legacy for the city of Philadelphia. Can you help me in giving him a round of applause, because there is no chill in this air, but warm, warm feeling and love for what the mayor has done, which is put Philadelphia where it belongs, in the forefront, the founding city of this country, in the forefront of policy that provides a real sanctuary for immigrants in the city of Philadelphia. Can you join me, please, in thanking the mayor? To his entire team who allowed us to work with them and sometimes allowed my team to step in their ways. Ketsi Lozada, Danilo Burgos, and Jennifer Cates, who worked hand in hand with Everett Gillison, with Rich Negrin, with Jennifer and Fernando, with Rue Landau, with everyone, because this victory was bigger than all of us. This victory is so huge, not only for the city of Philadelphia, but for the rest of the country. And for those of you who do immigrant work and know the faces behind the stories, the people who have suffered that we couldn't save before, let's also think about the ones that we are going to be able to save. Let us use this as an opportunity to serve as a real bridge with our city government, with our police department, with others, to make sure that Philadelphia fulfills its potential. I'm very honored to be able to serve on City Council, where there has always been strong leadership and support for the immigrant community. My council colleague, Janie Blackwell, who started the Caribbean Affairs Commission. My council colleague, Denny O'Brien, who's come in and quickly said, we're going to protect people's rights with notario fraud and other things that we're doing together. Councilman Kenny and others. Council has always been clear about this, but ultimately the mayor has to provide that leadership. And in this particular case, our mayor delivered. So thank you very much to everyone, and I look forward to working on the next project as we really make Philadelphia a safe place, a place where people's civil rights are protected every single day. Doesn't matter how they got here, but they are here, and once they're here, they're Philadelphians, and we're going to protect them all. Thank you.
Councilwoman, thank you for your remarks, and I appreciate the recognition that you provided with regard to our efforts. There are two other folks, and I'm sorry about this, who I actually had here, and then I got distracted for a second. But I know with the advocates, you know that you worked with just a couple other people on our team, and that's Mike Resnick, who's the Director of Public Safety for the city, and Tumar Alexander, who's Deputy Chief of Staff. Many hours that those guys put in, and I did not mean in any way to slight them. I just got lost on my sheet of paper there. So we're going to bring this to a conclusion. I'm pleased on this issue only to take questions from the working news media about this particular announcement. If you have other things that you wish to ask me questions about unrelated to this, you should see Mark McDonald, our press secretary, and he'll make those arrangements. But I will only talk about this particular issue at this moment of history in Philadelphia. Yes? The Chief of Staff maybe come up. I'm pretty certain that I read the particular section. If you have been convicted of a first or second degree felony, you can still be held. At the time of the public hearing, we were actually still in a discussion process with many of the advocates who, I would say appropriately, were pushing. We had some thoughts. There were a lot of exchanges going back and forth, but quite frankly, at the time of the hearing, things were still very fluid, and we weren't going to talk about even things that we maybe had already decided, but had not fully and thoroughly discussed with the advocacy community. So we were where we were publicly at the hearing at that time, while in the meantime other discussions were going on, and our position was actually in the process of being refined. But Chief, did I? Okay, I didn't get us in trouble. Nope. Okay. Yes, ma'am. What station or what outlet? For the city, this is for the future. I don't know that we can, and again, I'm going to rely on folks who actually do this for a living, but I don't necessarily know that we, the city, can somehow reach back and correct. If they're already in under federal jurisdiction or under federal control, I don't believe we as a city can probably do anything about that.
Good morning, Everett Gillison, Chief of Staff, also Deputy Mayor for Public Safety. Two things. One, we anticipating that this executive order was going to be signed, we have already started implementing this rule and have done so for the past number of weeks. So technically, there aren't anybody that's been in this particular position. The mayor is absolutely correct. Obviously, this controls the city of Philadelphia's, the city and county of Philadelphia, which is one and the same. We obviously have been working and will continue to work to respect our federal partners, because we have to educate them as well as to how this will go forward. But this policy has already started because we didn't want to just do a cold cut from one to the other. We want to make sure we could do our training, which will continue for all partners, both the police, the Department of Prisons, and also other agencies that actually we interact with in the public safety realm. So there really isn't anyone, I can tell you, there's no one up at the prison today that has one of these, and there really hasn't been for the last couple of weeks.
Yes, sir. Sure.
In the roundtable discussions that went into this, were any representatives of ICE nationally or locally part of those conversations, or are they separate?
We've had separate conversations with the federal agencies, ICE in particular, on these issues a number of times. And again, one of the reasons I had a little bit of a recitation of our history. My recollection is from day one, we had a slightly different policy, slightly more progressive policy than some other jurisdictions or locales, and certainly different than what the federal agency wanted from the start. So we've always been slightly more progressive, and we have evolved over time. There are kind of benchmark times, often around renewal time, where we've made changes pretty much every year. This, quite frankly, from one year to the next, could be the most or the greatest amount of change. But if you look at where we started, pretty much back in 2008, my recollection again is, I think we were pretty much faced with this in the summer of '08 when this came up. This is an issue that predated my being mayor. We changed the city's position then, and we've pretty much changed it almost every year or every 2 years at renewal time. But we stay in touch with these folks, as the Deputy Mayor said. However anyone might feel about any federal agency, at the end of the day, we are a government, and we have to, we interact with these folks at various levels. We don't always agree. We've articulated our position or change in position every time we've done it, and ultimately they just kind of deal with it. But we all operate in the same space, and we have to get along at some level, but we don't always have to agree. Any other questions?
Perhaps for you, are there any scenarios that you can think of under which there would be a judicial warrant backing a detainer?
I didn't hear the last part of what you said.
Can you explain? I'm wondering if there are any situations where you could see a warrant backing a detainer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, a person is actually wanted.
Detainer, not
Right.
other things.
No, the idea was, and the reason why we asked for a judicial warrant, a warrant to be backed by probable cause, in essence, is because we wanted to make sure that this was not a broad brush, but it was actually specifically targeted to people who were known to be and have a danger to the community that they're in. So, yeah, there's plenty of opportunities. The issue really has been is that they have taken a broad net approach rather than being specific. And a lot of things that we do in the city, we try to be very specific about what we're doing because we don't like to have a broad brush approach. So if a person was either the crimes of violence are rape, murder, aggravated assault, which is a felony of 1 or 2, and also any domestic issues that involve a weapon. I mean, we just didn't want to just do domestic issues. It has to involve a weapon. We wanted to be as narrowly focused as we could, because it is those individuals that we need to really, and as I said in a number of the forums that I had to attend, and wanted to make sure that we were clear, I wanted to make sure it doesn't matter how you get here, what's going on. If you commit murder, if you commit rape, if you commit domestic violence in this community with a weapon, the bottom line is, I don't need you here, and neither do the citizens in this community. No, they have not been required to have a judicial warrant in the past. We are requiring it going forward. Well, they know our policy. So I've been in touch with, along with Director Resnick and I, we've been in touch with our partners at ICE and the federal government at different levels. I've been in touch with the attorney, U.S. Attorney's Office, the ICE facilities, and even we've had various discussions with the Attorney General's office. So the mayor's position on what we've been doing for 6.5 years has been clear, and we are advocates ourselves, and we continue to advocate on behalf of the mayor's vision for this city, and we will continue to do that.
Last question?
You indicated public safety as a driving factor in this decision, but what about other factors like boosting the economy? Do you think this will improve the city's economy or make it a more desirable place to live?
You know, I'm not a criminologist or a sociologist, but I think you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that if you have less crime in a community, it's a more positive place where people want to live, work, raise their families, spend money. And so, in many instances, a more safe environment encourages economic activity. I think those two things, you know, someone could study that and probably find some correlation. I'm just against criminals. That's my position. I'm against criminals, and you know, I don't really know where the constituency is for criminals other than other criminals. So we're going to do everything we can legally to protect the citizens and other people who are here in the city of Philadelphia. We are a progressive place, but we're also mindful of safety issues. We want people to be able to trust their government. You know, again, one of the founding principles of this government, folks came here because they didn't like the other government where they were. And we still find that to be the case today, that folks want to be in the United States of America for any number of reasons, but one of those reasons should be that you feel safe, that you feel welcome, that you feel secure in your person, and these are rights that are granted to us by our Constitution. That's what we live by, created right here in the city of Philadelphia. Thanks a lot.